Welcome to Winning on Wednesday. My name is Juan Vides, and I'm the founder of Winning on Wednesday. Today's guest is Yale Pollack. He's graduated from Colgate University. He also attended Touro Law Center as well. Yale is a very prominent lawyer in Long Island. He has extensive experience in handling civil disputes, including labor and employment, real estate, landlord-tenant, and finance, banking, construction, and other personal injury matters as well. I just wanted to say welcome to today's guest. Welcome, Yale. How are you?
Juan, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you, Gail. So tell me a little bit about yourself. I always start by asking, what did your parents do? Tell me from all the beginning, from the start. What did your parents do for a living? I like to ask people that question from the very beginning.
All right. Well, mainly a lot had been from my grandfather working in a factory. He had worked in a factory where they manufactured boxes, and that was something that had been passed down to his children. So that my mother and my uncles. One of my uncles ended up going to California to be a doctor, so they had taken over the business. And while I was younger, I got to go to the factory and see what type of workers were there, and how there was an office staff, and then there were the manual workers working the machines down in the factory. And I was always fascinated by it. Granted, I was very young, so I wasn't as fascinated as I am now about the working conditions or pay they were receiving, but they all seemed happy. And so that's generally what they did growing up. So that's how that was their business.
I see that. No, they can see the passionate for workers and employees, and I can now see where that comes from. Question for you: when you were 7 years old, what did you want to be? When you grew up? Did you always wanted to become a lawyer or a worker, or how did that? What did you be when you were 7? What did you want to become when you grew up?
Like a typical 7-year-old, I wanted to, be a basketball player, but reality sunk in, pretty quickly. And what I just realized is that I wanted to help people. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but it did feel good, and it felt like something that I'd want to do. And so as I grew, I have a lot of family members who are in law. Granted, nobody with my direct lineage, but and second cousins and whatnot. And so it became an area that I became very focused on in terms of not just going to law school, but also the type of law that I'd want to come out doing after I was in law school, which was to be a litigator. There's basically two types of lawyers. You have transactional and you have litigators. And I always wanted to be in the litigator arena for some reason. And I think it's just having that competitive nature of, when I was younger, I was competitive at sports, and you don't gain that that edge when you're older. But in litigation, it does feel like a victory and a loss, even though a lot of cases result in settlement. The results I get from my clients make it seem like a true victory.
I got it. And question, what attracted you to become a lawyer? Like, what attracted you to the law?
Well, it wasn't something I jumped into right away. It was when I had graduated from college in 2001. My first job was being a real estate broker. Granted, my first day of work was September 10th, 2001, and I was living in the city. So you can imagine how that affected the commercial real estate and people not really wanting to come into New York. But it was a commission-based lifestyle, and I dealt frequently with lawyers while in that position as a broker. And so I saw what they were doing, and it seemed more stable in terms of a lifestyle instead of, then we were dealing with September 11th. Now, the other hurdle that we just have recently and are still dealing with is COVID. But, just the consistency and being able to deal with people was really what drew me to law and wanting to make change.
Got it. And do you have any, did you have any hobbies growing up or any interests like, or did you still have any hobbies that you continued since you do, or?
I mean, sports have always been a true passion of mine, whether it's rooting for a team or playing on the fields. As I've gotten older, I've pretty much become resigned to be a golfer. But, my hobbies really now consist around my children. I have two boys, 10 and 7 years old, who I like to inspire. I like to inspire them for education. I like to inspire them for doing charitable work. And I like to inspire them, in being competitive in whatever they're passionate with. And right now at that age, they're both very into sports. And so it's great, being able to teach them certain things from what I did growing up and coach them. I do coach where I can and help out as an assistant where someone else has that position. So it's a joy working with kids like that. And then, I really feel good about it at the end when, the parents all chip in for a gift and say how great how much they learned or how great the experience was being with me. So that always feels good. And that's something that I want to continue doing.
Wow. Talking about inspired, did you have any role models that inspired you or today?
I'd say my uncle, who moved to California, he was one of the role models that I had. He had become a major doctor at the top of his field after, going to college, and then he didn't do so well there. So he went to Mexico for medical school, but then, made it big time in California. And so he was always someone that I really, maybe he's not a role model, but he was always a trusted advisor for me and someone I would lean to. And he was very encouraging for me to go to law school. After the 2 years, I was a real estate broker, and I realized that was not what was in the long run for me.
Yeah. Wow. And that obviously that was your last 9 to 5 job, right? Before you decided to go on your own. Was that the
Correct.
real? Right. And
Yeah.
wow. And were you like, what decided impacted your decision to make that jump, to go on your own, and what was there anything to decide? Was it a deciding factor or something that motivated you or desire you to just go ahead and do it and jump and leap up to it? Was it, what was it?
Oh yeah, it was scary. That's what it was. I had originally started at a firm on Long Island where I was a commercial litigator. So that meant, doing all types of business types disputes, from real estate to banking and other business areas. But I did work primarily with the employment partner there. And so that's the field that I felt the most passionate about. And, because it was dealing with real life experiences for people people's basically their second home. Work is the second home for many of us. And so, you're really in tune with the individuals that you're talking to and trying to help them. Granted, the first 10 years when I was at law firms, I was generally on the management side, or the employer side as it's known, representing employers, because that's the type of clients that were attracted to these bigger firms. So I got to learn a lot about what goes into a case and how it's evaluated from the defense side. And when I realized that the second firm was not the right fit for me, I had a couple clients that were willing to come with me. So I kind of ponied up and said, let's do this. I had a thought of just, going around and creating handbooks for local businesses as a loss leader, knowing I'd be their trusted advisor should any employment issue arise going forward. But what ended up happening is that my old two firms, who I left on very good terms with, started referring me cases for employees. And
Wow.
yeah. And they were basically doing the marketing for me. And it wasn't something that I had thought I'd be doing, but once I started doing it, I at the beginning, I was doing it all. I was driving to the apartments. I was driving into the city. I was doing whatever I could
Hmm.
to get these clients and show them a really personalized touch. And since I already had experience on the defense side, I knew what they'd be looking at. So what I'd always pride myself on and continue to pride myself on is managing client expectations and not taking the client who says I want $1 million because that's the jury verdict that was shown on the cover of a newspaper or whatnot. When these individuals, rightfully so, don't know what happens after the jury awards a verdict and how a judge can reduce a verdict after on a motion called remittitor and basically say that the jury's award was excessive, and unless you accept this amount, we're going to go to a new trial. So I have a very good understanding of, where a good settlement posture is, and how to, and if they're in a pie in the sky land, they may not be the right one for me, because I really like to be aligned with my clients and expectations, and I don't like setting expectations that I can't meet.
I always say it's about good customer service and bedside manners, and providing that service, because at the end of the day, we are all providing a service at the end of the day, and so just doing the right thing for our customers. Um, Tell me about a typical day for you now, like now for you. What does a typical day look like for you?
It's been an interesting few years. COVID obviously took a really big toll on many industries, including uh, the legal industry and employment claims. When people were working remotely, there weren't as many claims, and so things were developing in a different way where you were kind of giving free advice. A lot was talking about the vaccines and exemptions for religious or medical reasons. And then now we're through that, and we have people who are back at work. And so now what a day generally entails for me is, waking up, making sure that I'm taking care of all my emails and everything on my calendar in the morning, reviewing the any new cases that may have been published in the discrimination, retaliation, or wage and hour fields. I like to stay on top of that, and there's certain um, sites that give you content for updated information like that. So that's what keeps me abreast of the changes that have been going on in the law. And then, developing, client relationships. On the one hand, I do represent employees. So, that's not, those generally come from word of mouth and, past clients I've represented who have, recommended me, or other attorneys who I have relationships with. But I also do represent small employers as well. I'm here to fight for the little guy, and I understand that being an employer in New York is not an easy task. The policies and laws that are consistently passed are ever evolving, and handbooks have to be changed almost on a semi-annual, if not more frequent basis, with the new laws that come out. More recently, you had something with the HERO Act, which is to prevent the spread of infectious airborne diseases. That
Right.
has to go into a handbook. You now have a new amended labor law claim where now that has to be put in the handbook. And
Yeah,
go
you
ahead.
with all these valuable pieces of information you're giving us, you're like shooting this great valuable information. By the way, thank you for our listeners are going to appreciate this information. I like to give this segment, and this is perfect timing with the segue, is what piece of information you would like to give to our listeners right now that can help their business or become a better business person. I like to say what golden piece of nugget you would like to leave behind so they can share this interview with. Is there anything you can give or any examples of information that you've used or anything like that? I mean, you just given us two fabulous
Of course,
information.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
gave you nuanced, examples in this situation. But, it's really getting really true trusted advisors. That goes for every aspect of someone's life, whether it's a financial or tax with an accountant, or whoever it may be. Being with someone that you trust and that you could establish trust with, so that you understand that that person's going to be looking out for your best interests. I always look out for my clients first, and often that it causes some dilemma in the household once in a while, but they understand where loyalties must go and how priorities are taken. But right now, being on top of the law, it's an employer's responsibility. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. And so if an employer is sued and they say, oh, I didn't know that I had to pay him overtime, or, oh, I didn't know that I couldn't, say this to that person, it's not an excuse or a defense to a lawsuit. Employers are charged with knowing the law, and that's a very daunting statement, because there are a lot of laws that are out there. And so having a good employment attorney to navigate those minefields where you're dealing with certain federal laws that apply to certain companies, and then there's state laws that apply to companies, and then there are city and local laws. So you really have to understand all of them. And as a business owner who's trying to operate their own restaurant or business and sell whatever products they're looking to sell or service they're looking to provide, that's not something that someone really wants to do. So teaming up with a good employment lawyer, I think, is always good, whether it's just for a quick phone call, which I provide free advice, plenty of times for, but then,
And with that, how could they reach you, by the way? What's the best way to reach you?
My website is yalepollacklaw.com, YalePollackLaw.com. That's my website. My phone number is 516-634-6340. And my email is ypollack, YPOLLACK, at yalepollacklaw.com.
Oh, good. Excellent. And a question is for you. Do you belong to any organizations that you want to mention? Any specific groups or organizations they belong to?
I mean, I'm part of, a bunch of bar associations, including the Nassau Bar, American Bar Association, and the New York State Bar Association. And those have active committees where I'm primarily in the labor and employment section. And they help. There's groups, and I'm also part of a NELA New York. It's a national employment advocates for basically employees, and so they serve as a really good sounding board for solo practitioners such as myself to bounce ideas off of other people, because it's scary being on your own and thinking you have the right answer, but having a sounding board for others who could give you other ways to attack it, or otherwise give you other strategies. That's a great other organization that I'm part of.
Okay, excellent. And Yale, one more time for our listeners, how's the best way to contact you?
Again, through email or phone. Being the phone number at 516-634-6340, or email at ypollack, YPOLLACK, at Yale, YALE, Pollack spelled the same way, law.com.
Okay, excellent. Well, Yale, thank you so much for this interview. It's been great. So much time learning about so much about what you do, and you're passionate about the law, employment from the beginning, from with your grandfather working there and taking it to now. Wow, you just took us to a great journey. And I just wanted to thank you for your time.
Juan, I really wanted to thank you for having me on as a guest today. I just truly appreciate it.
Okay, Yale, thank you so much. And we look forward to the next.